Well, that is it for episode 11. I think this puts us at about 3 weeks left in the process. I don't know how many episodes that equates to, but each one of these episodes pretty much ends up covering like at least a week at this point, you know, when we spend like 17 episodes on the weddings and then 3 episodes on the entire 8-week journey, but whatever. Just wanted to make one comment before we jumped into things tonight, and that's about watching our couples interact with the experts. I find that we generally get one of 2 approaches from the individuals, and that is that they either immediately just start dumping out all their problems onto the expert, or they try to portray this perfect version of themselves to the experts. And I really wish that our experts were more involved in the process so that they knew which version of each person they were getting when they sat down with them, because you know, getting that fake persona, that fake, oh, look how happy we are, look how perfect we are, doesn't help anybody, doesn't progress their relationships. You know, it's just them trying to appear a certain way to the experts. But let's move on from my random commentary about the interactions. Nobody cares. Well, maybe you care. That's why you watch the video. And let's jump straight into Morgan and Ben. I wonder what I'm going to say about this whole situation tonight. First thing, thank you, Mitch, for telling Ben that he didn't do anything wrong, because in this situation, in any situation, going to a friend for advice is not wrong. It is not betrayal. It is not lying. Ben, needed support, which Morgan clearly has no interest in giving anyone under any circumstances. He needed that support. He needed somebody to talk things through with. He needed that safe space that Morgan just refused to give Ben, refused to open that door, refused to open her heart on this entire process. So I really, really enjoyed when Mitch told Ben that he didn't do anything wrong. I know that probably Kristen won't like hearing me pat Mitch on the back for doing just something that anybody should do, but here we are and we're doing it. Morgan saying that it's been all about Ben was hilarious. You know, when she was sitting there having her little bash session with the girls, and that whole scene, like what a perfect way to paint what kind of person each of them were. You know, Morgan was, I'm perfect, I never did anything wrong, Ben did everything wrong, it is all Ben's fault, Ben is terrible, Ben betrayed me, Ben lied, Ben went behind my back. You know, that is the person that she is, and it's a pretty terrible person. Meanwhile, we have Ben with the guys basically saying like, hey, I was wrong, I lied, I went behind her back. And you know, I'm just listening to Ben thinking, Ben, you're just basically trying to I don't even know how to put this, but basically just trying to appease Morgan. You know, he's just saying those things because that's what Morgan wants him to say, and I don't think that's good either. But we're seeing Ben show remorse. We're seeing Ben take accountability. You know, we're seeing Ben want to be a better person, want to do better, and want to have a successful outcome. Things that we are absolutely not seeing from Morgan. You know, Morgan very clearly blaming everything on Ben and taking absolutely no accountability whatsoever. You know, she had all of the women, you know, in her corner on her side because, you know, she was painting that picture so skewed to her perspective that it was comical. Like, it was hilarious. And if you bought into anything Morgan was saying, you know, I feel sorry for you because she swindled you just like she wanted to. She swindled you just like she did all those other 4 women in that room. And, you know, that's what she wants. She wants you in her corner. She wants you on her side. And she wants you against Ben. And then they have that whole thing where the women go and basically ambush the men because Morgan is worried about all the nasty things that Ben has been saying behind her back to all the guys. And like we've seen, not what he's doing. Not what he's doing, because that's not who he is. And if Morgan, if you listened in even just one conversation with Ben, you would understand that that is not the person he is. But we have very distinctly seen you repeatedly not listen to him all season long. And you know what, Morgan, that is one of the reasons why you are going to be single and alone for a long, long time. Nate, you know, asking about the hostility, hilarious. You know, he'd been sitting there with Ben, listen to Ben's story. You know, there was no animosity, no negativity. He just kind of said it like it was. And Morgan, with the hostility, she was even had that energy with the women, came into the room hostile towards Ben immediately, not willing to listen to anything that comes out of his mouth. And I love that, Nate, just straight up asking about, like, why are you so hostile? I absolutely love that. Ben handled that entire situation amazing, while Morgan doubled down on just being a terrible person. You know, when you are a terrible person, I guess it's probably not really doubling down. It's probably better to be characterized as just being yourself, which Morgan was in that moment and has been the whole season. When you're terrible, you're just terrible. Morgan's first moment of self-reflection the entire season shockingly came in front of the experts. It wasn't to her husband. It wasn't to the women. It wasn't in a little diary room cam. It's in front of the experts when she's trying to appear a certain way, and she couldn't even keep it up for 5 seconds. It was one tiny little sentence about how maybe she didn't do enough for Ben. Maybe she didn't do enough to make him feel comfortable, and then just immediately reverted back to the Ben bashing. Just hilarious. You know, less than 5 seconds. She did self-reflection for 5 seconds. That's how much she could muster up to just even pretend to be a decent human being. 5 seconds, that's how long she lasted. Ben reading his letter, and just, you could desperately see him wanting some connection from Morgan, you know, some sign that she was listening, that she was paying attention, that she was engaged, that she wanted to hear what he was saying. And the whole time she was just prepping to be the horrible, terrible person that we've all seen and know that she is. She was waiting for her moment to stab another dagger into Ben when she dropped the whole, you know, I don't want to share this to you because you'll just go behind my back and tell somebody else. And like, Morgan, there's a camera. There's a camera recording you right now. Like, if you read that letter, every single person who's watching is going to know. And you think that you have some sort of stance to say that Ben is going to go behind your back and tell everybody? Well, Morgan, if you would have read the letter, you would have told all of us. So what is the difference? Read your damn letter, you know, at least pretend like you actually give one crap about this entire process. And Morgan, one last thing for you. Don't let that door hit you on the way out. I don't really have much to say about all the other couples this week. Morgan and Ben were pretty much the entirety of my notes, but we'll kind of rip through everybody. And get done this video so we can get down in the comments section and continue the Morgan bashing, because you know what? I don't think it's done. I think we got more. I think I got more in me to give all of you throughout the rest of the season. Alexis and Justin. Alexis, I have a very serious question for you. Why did you turn your grandma's couch into a jacket? That whole jacket that she had on at the start of the episode in the dinner party, you know, it was looking familiar to me last week, and finally clued in what it was this week, because my grandma had that couch. I think probably most of you, your grandma had that couch. She had that upholstery on as many pieces of furniture as she could. And Alexis, I guess she just wanted to honor grandmothers all over the world by sporting it on a jacket. And Alexis, very nice gesture. Probably the nicest gesture that we've seen you make all season long. Maya not doing well at her training. I don't like any of the dog stuff on this show. I hated it when the whole Maya and Newton stuff happened. I hate hearing about that situation now, and I just feel like there's going to be a very sad ending there when this is all done that I do not want to think about. Justin's brother sounds like he was a terrible father figure for Justin. There was one point Justin was kind of explaining how, you know, basically his brother raised him, and I mean, I'm sure that was very challenging for Justin's brother, but his style of being a mentor, being a father figure, was just telling Justin, go figure it out. And, you know, this whole macho era of, you know, being too tough to cry and, you know, never showing emotions and being the tough guy, figuring out yourself, doing things the hard way, really just needs to end, needs to go away. And I hope that the next generation doesn't have to experience as many of those situations as the previous generation did. And we're going to have another little note for Alexis here. There isn't anything wrong with flying a kite. You're not soft if you fly a kite. It's just a kite. You know, it's fun. Go outside. It's windy. It's cool. You got this thing on a string. It just kind of cruises around in the air. You can get a fancy one, have it doing tricks. Like, it's cool. Like, don't hate on kites. Why you gotta be bashing kites? Go get back into your couch jacket and leave the kite people alone. Alexis, one more note. We got a lot of little notes here for Alexis. That letter that you wrote to your younger self, pure BS, 100% fake, not real, didn't buy it. Let's move on. Kristen and Mitch. Feels a little weird to see a hardcore environmentalist eating meat. I don't know if anybody else saw that. I think it was just a little clip at the start. Maybe it was an Impossible Burger. I don't know. Mitch chowing down on meat for somebody who's like against all like single use anything, against straws even existing, all that stuff, to be chowing down on meat feels like the teeny tiniest little bit hypocritical. And maybe that's not what he was eating, but sure looked like he was chowing down on some meat at the start. Enjoyed the session with Dr. Pepper. We saw Kristen kind of start to stand up for herself last week. You know, she took another stance this week, and really for their long-term health, she really needs to do that, establish her place in the relationship, because as she said, you know, up to that point, it was everything about Mitch. It was about accommodating Mitch. It was about making Mitch happy, not about making them happy, not about making Kristen happy. And it's good to see them starting to shift through all that. We saw Mitch open up about his past when he read his little letter to his past self. And I think we're starting to get a better picture of who he is, why he is the way he is, and hopefully Kristen is going to be able to accept that, understand that, and help them grow as a couple. Let's just keep this cruising. Stasha and Nate. If it wasn't for that stripper scene at the start of the season, I would 100% be on Team Nate. Not too much to report on them this week. Thought this was a pretty solid week for them. Kind of getting past that whole Stasha not really being happy with how fast Nate was opening up. I think we're kind of past that point now, because like I had said then, she just needed to give him a little bit more time. Nate knew that he needed to open up. He knew that he needed to start taking some steps forward. He just wasn't quite on the same speed that Stasha was. I think Dr. Pepper also brought that up with them. So that was good to see. And I think that it was just really just positive steps for them this week. Next week, maybe it doesn't look like all positive steps for them, but the previews have been pretty deceptive this season. I think pretty much every horrible line that we saw somebody say on the previews turned out to be in totally different context than what we were sold on, and maybe that will continue for the weeks to come. Lastly, Lindy and Miguel didn't get their own scene till halfway through the episode. Some stuff happened maybe, then they danced, and then they said, "I love you." And that's it. So we're done. We'll see you next week. I'm out.